Hi, everybody, and welcome to another Kira Chat. I am incredibly honored today to introduce our topic and our speaker, Paul Posoli from Career Spring. He actually, side note, was one of the first mentors and advocates of Kira as we built. He has built a huge network of mentors and first gen community, someone who is truly committed to the mission of first gen advancement in universities and in the workplace, who is walking the walk, who spent years as a president of Cristo Rey High School, moving away from his corporate job to really help this next generation of leaders. We are really honored to have him. He's obviously a very busy individual, but today he's coming to talk to us specifically about the first gen advantage, your story, your career. How do you make this your superpower? Paul, thank you so much for joining us. This is actually a double event because Adrian Pina was actually a member of Career Spring and now works with Cura and is able to interview Paul. So, this for all of you out there that are part of both communities, we're excited to have you. If you're not part of Cura, and you should join. If you're not part of Career Spring, you should join because there are organizations like this all over the country that are doing everything that we can with leaders like Paul to help you get to the next level. Adrian, I'd love for you to formally introduce Paul, but I just wanted to say thanks, Paul. Thanks for joining today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Jen. Hi, everyone. My name is Adrian, and today we're joined by Paul Posoli. Paul is the founder and president of CareerSpring, which is a network and job placement platform specifically designed for first generation and or low income students and graduates. He previously served as the president of Cristo Rey Jesuit Preparatory School of Houston. Before that, he also spent many years in the energy industry, working at places like JP Morgan and senior roles at Calpine. Down below would be Paul's LinkedIn and also a Career Spring link. Make sure you sign up and join. My first question to you, Paul, is can you walk us through your journey from banking to leading a high school and then Career Spring?
Sure. Yeah, thanks again for having me. So I spent most of my career in the energy business, but after college, I worked in accounting at what's now PwC. You all probably have heard of that. It was Coopers and Lybrand. So I did a few years in accounting, then I went back to get my MBA. And then I took a job in Houston working for an energy company called Enron, which some of you may have had classes about it because there's a lot of stories about Enron and things. But I started with Enron, only stayed about 4 years, but then I spent 20 years in the energy business. I used to lead energy trading businesses. So as you're thinking about careers, trading is, if you're in finance, that's an option. The trading world, I used to lead energy trading, commodities trading shops. But in 2014, as Adrian mentioned, I received a call that really changed the path of my life. The founding president of this high school, Cristo Rey Jesuit, and Adrian, you are a grad. You're a Cristo Rey grad. Yeah. Uh, Founding president, young guy, was diagnosed with stage 4 stomach cancer, and the school called me and said, "Hey, would you consider leaving JP Morgan to come and lead the high school?" And of course, I'm thinking, I don't know the first thing about leading high school. There's got to be somebody that can do this job, but I ended up taking it, and I thought it'd be 6 months. I ended up spending 5 years. So I was there from 2014 to 2019 as the head of school, working full time at the high school, and I loved it. And I started to get concerned about workforce development in the U.S. and specifically like how artificial intelligence would impact the lower income population in the U.S. This was 2018, 2019. I also found a lot of our students were doing all the right stuff. They go to college, they'd work hard, make it to the finish line of graduation, but they just didn't have networks. They didn't know anyone. They didn't have internships along the way, and they go on to be underemployed, taking jobs that didn't require a degree beneath their capabilities. And so I thought, man, that's an absolute shame. And I found that when I made introductions for students, like if Adrian had called me and said, "Hey, I'm trying to get connected with a finance firm," I'd start calling my friends and make connections. And whenever I made the connection, it resulted in something positive. So I was thinking, why can't I do what I've been doing for 25 students a year for tens of thousands? I just need to find like-minded people like Jen, Elena, and Sylvia and others, Alejandra, that think it's a good idea. They're willing to take calls from students and employers that think it's a good idea too, that want to attract that next generation of talent. So bottom line is most of my career in the energy business worked at the high school, and that got me down this path to help as many young people as I can, empower them with the skills and resources they need to find meaningful, high quality jobs.
Oh, you talked a little bit about students at Cruise Spring not having a network, and we always hear build your network, build your social capital. Can you define what social capital is, and what does it look like in action in college or maybe as a first year associate?
Yeah, sure. Social capital is the value you receive from people you know, from networks, right? And it can come in lots of different forms, but you can think of it like, put it really simply, it's the hidden advantage that people have because they know people, because they're connected to others, people that can open doors for them, people who can mentor them, people who can guide them on their journey, people who can coach them. Uh, all those things on paper, you're like, how important could that possibly be? I got my degree, I'm really smart, but unfortunately, because it really is unfortunately, and I don't blame anybody who takes advantage of social capital because good for you if you're doing it. But people that don't have it are at a major disadvantage. So what it can lead to for you is basically, I'll make this point. 80% of all jobs are filled by personal and professional connections. Just think about that for a second. 80% of all jobs are filled by personal and professional connections. So obviously it's really important.
Thank you. I guess a follow-up question to me is typically first gen and low income students don't really have many family connections. How would they get into an industry where they have no connections? How do they start building a network in that industry?
Well, I mean, there's this was a little bit of a career spring commercial, but it's okay because there's lots of other ways too. But obviously, we literally created Career Spring to enable students that don't have networks to have a network, right? It's like to build their professional networks, to gain social capital. So I'd say check out Career Spring for sure.
Mhm.
Cura has initiatives, I'm sure, and we're partners with Cura, but I don't know all the different initiatives, but I know you all have great initiatives as well. I think you have to make the decision that it's important.
Mhm.
Like you just have to say, I'm going to make this, like I'm going to school, I'm working, and I'm going to actually build my network. So then you'd say, okay, well, how do I do that? Well, at Career Spring, we have about 1,000 advisors that are professionals from hundreds of different industries that are available for you to meet with. They signed up to do it. So I know that it's like there's an awkward part about this, right? Some young people don't want to reach out to an adult, especially old guys like me. I get that. But all these people have signed up. They've all said, I'd love to talk to somebody. So if you get on Career Spring, we have an advisor form. It's really simple. You start going through the bios and you just click on the person and you send them a message. And often they have their calendar out there, like I have my calendar, and you just go to the booking link and schedule a meeting with them.
Mhm.
What's important is that you're prepared for the meeting.
Mhm.
You want to go into that, like, what is it you want to talk to them about? Well, you want to better understand the work that they do, maybe. Maybe it's like one of my favorite questions for a student is like, first of all, here's who I am. And what would you do if you were me? Like everybody can answer that question. Like if you were in my shoes, I want to be a psychologist. That's what I want to do. I'm studying psychology. Now what do I do? It seems like you were very successful in it. How did you do it? Similar to the conversation we're having right now. The other thing I'd recommend is keeping a spreadsheet of it because we all meet people and we forget. Like, even this conversation today, there's a listener, you probably a year from now won't remember what some of the things that I suggested. But if you write it down as you have conversations, create a Google sheet. It's like Paul Posoli. I talked to Paul. I listened to Paul at this Cura call. These were my takeaways. Ding, 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 ding. Write them down. And then revisit those. I
Mhm.
think that we suggest that students build a network of at least 12 to 15 professionals that are in their area of interest. and their location that they want to live in. Think of them as like advocates. Like if those people get to know you, and then when you're looking for a job as a senior, you can go back to those people and say, "Hey, I want to just let you know, here's my update. I did this, I did that, I did this." And do you know anyone?
Mhm.
It's likely that one of those 12 people. Now, if you're really smart, you'll do one a month. If you're a freshman, you'll do it every month for 4 years, right? You'll have 50 people in your corner. Like, why wouldn't you want that? And then I'd just ask you to stay in touch with them. Like, don't use it as like, okay, I got what I needed, I got my job, and now I'm never going to check in with Paul, Jen, Sylvia, whomever, Alejandro. It's got to be these people now are part of my network, and I'm going to keep them posted. My son does a really good job. I've got a 26-year-old, and I'll get emails from people, or I'll run into somebody my age, and they'll be like, "Hey, your son sent an email to me the other day." I'm like, "Really? About what?" He was just giving me an update. I was like, "Wow," because 5 years ago, that person took a call from him, and who knows? Maybe he's just doing it because he wants to stay in touch with people, but selfishly, if he ever is back in the market looking for a job again and he still has those people connected, that's going to help him. So, really simple. Make it a part of your journey.
Mhm.
Keep a spreadsheet of what you learn along the way from those people. Stay in touch with those people and really try to hit that 12 to 15 at least over the course of your college career.
I like what you said, Paul, because what's coming up for me as you say that is there's a little bit of the myth of, oh, I'm bothering people, right? I'm asking for too much. And I hear this a lot. And what's beautiful about this example is people do want to know what happens when you get the job or how you're doing. They're curious. So it's not a bother. It's not you're taking up too much of my time. I got the job. Thank you. I'm done. It's I really care and I know you care. And so it's shifting away from that thinking that you're taking up too much time or you're bothering someone or they don't have time for you. I think that's such a beautiful thing. And it tells me it's more about the human experience, right? They wanted to help you in the first place. So let's assume that and continue that relationship. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm
you.
glad you raised that. Yeah, it actually most older people like helping younger people.
Mhm.
At least we found that at Career Spring.
Mhm.
And so they'll feel you're actually helping them to feel better about themselves too. What a gift.
Mhm.
I like the way you frame that, Sylvia.
Paul, I'm so excited for you to share some of this. And I actually am a career spring mentor. And so I just wanted to share from my experience too. I love it, right? I love it because I can just put in there entrepreneur marketing and people will reach out to me for a 15-minute call. And to this day, some of the f folks that have reached out to me will text me updates. They'll send me information. They become part of my LinkedIn network, which just by sheer experience and age gives you access to another 5,000 people, right?
Yes.
Just getting onto your network of 1,000 people is actually 12 steps away from having access to 25,000 more people. I wanted to share that with the audience because whoever's not on there should be as either a mentor or a participant. And two, also it can be intimidating to think about, who to meet. I like the idea of going by industry. And I also want to stress the importance of interest, right? Like I cold called and reached out to you on LinkedIn because of our commitment and shared interest in first
Mm,
generation. Right. And so I think part of it sometimes can be a little bit of technical work capability, skills matching. And part of it is not to underestimate the importance of human interests and social impact causes in connecting and building your network that way too.
great take. Yeah, really, really good point. I had a last night I had a call with this former advisee. So this young man didn't know what private wealth management was when he got on the platform, started meeting with some private wealth people, and he said he did so many consultations that the system shut him down. I didn't even know that we had that there's a limit. Apparently there's a limit. I learned this recently. And when he was interviewing, because I worked at JP Morgan, when he was interviewing at JP Morgan, the guy from JP Morgan called me and he said, "Hey, Paul, did you start this nonprofit called Career Spring?" I said, "Yes." He said, man, we've got this young man interviewing, and he keeps talking about career sprint, but he keeps saying, look, I know everything I need to know because of all the advisors I've met with. And so you're not gonna be able to stump me. I was like, ooh, okay, that's guts. He ended up getting the internship, then he got the full-time offer. But the reason I bring it up is last night he reached out to me on the platform and said, can we have a call? So last night I spoke to him because he's now trying to figure out his next step on his journey. So the other thing about this world of networks and social capital is it doesn't end when you get your first job. All right. I have people that I consider mentors in my life that I hope to once every couple of years connect with still. And I've been president of big companies, but I have people that I admire that I want to connect with and learn from. And so it never ends. So it just needs to be a part of your life.
Oh, now that we're on the topic of like career discovery and career journey, a question that I have for you is how do students explore different career options without committing years to something that might not be the right fit?
Yeah, good, good question. So I think the first thing is what a great time. I don't know how old the people are that are on this call or that will watch the video, but assuming that you're in your early 20s, let's just start there. It's a great time to do self-reflection. It's a great time to figure out who you are. What do you stand for? All that kind of stuff. Like what's important to you? I mean, I'm gonna get to career, but first start with like who you are. What are your values, that kind of thing. Because once you understand yourself, then it can really help. Okay, and then let's move it down a little bit further. Do I like talking to people all day long? Or do I like being in a cubicle looking at spreadsheets? Do I faint when I see blood? Me. Do I, everybody's got things, right? And you could start knocking off the stuff that you know you're not going to do. Like I knew I was not going to be a doctor when I gave blood the first time and I almost passed out. So that's its own story. But so knocking out the things, what kind of person are you? What do you stand for? And then like on the Career Spring platform, we have a thing called a career interest finder. It's a survey, it takes 15 minutes. You go in there, it's really simple. Take the little survey, what are my skills and interests? And at the end of that, it says, here are some jobs that you may be interested in. It's fine. It's a good little resource. You could do the same thing with ChatGPT. You literally could be talking to ChatGPT, just having conversations all the time. Like, look, this is who I am. This is what I'm interested in. Uh, what are some jobs that fit this? But I don't like this. But I don't like that. What are the pros and cons? Using Career Spring resources, Cura resources, doing that now. Don't wait until you're 22 years old, you're about to graduate and be like, now what am I going to do? A great time in your life is between 18 and 22. If you're later in life, that's okay too. When I was 40, I started journaling. I had never journaled. I'm 40 years old and I'm like thinking, man, maybe I need to do something different with my life because I'm flying around the world all the time. I'm never home. And I started exploring and started journaling and learning about myself. I wrote a mission statement. I wrote what I wanted my epitaph to say, which is kind of morbid, but that's a gravestone for those of you that don't know that term. So even at 40 years old, it's okay to do that self-reflection. But back to how do you figure out career? Understand yourself. Take some of those, talk to ChatGPT, take the Career Interest Finder at Career Spring, start looking at jobs that they say would be good for you, and then meet with people that do those jobs so you can understand what they are. If you can get an internship, even better. If you can't get an internship, maybe it's just projects. Sometimes, like I tell students that we talk to, look, if you can't get an internship, go to people that do what you want to do and tell them you'll work for free. They'll probably pay you. But if you can get anything, 10 hours a week, 5 hours a week for free, it's worth it. And then you're going to say, well, maybe you say, come from a low income background. I can't make it work. It's like, just work harder. Work somewhere else and get paid and do the job for free. And because you got to get that experience so you can tell whether or not that you want to start your career. That doesn't mean you're going to stay in that career. It just means you're going to start there.
Oh, I love how you give very practical, very low pressure examples of how to, like, for example, network and how to find a career that fits you. We touched a little bit, you touched a little bit on AI. Question that I have for you is, how do you see AI changing skill sets that young professionals need?
Yeah, you all are unlike us. I had the advantage of I learned the energy business and I was learning every day, but once I became an expert in it, I was pretty much going to get paid to do what I did. Whereas today, it does feel like you must be continuous learner. You must continue to learn at all times. And I think we should all be open to growth. So you can look at it as like, cool, because I can learn more things and I could grow myself. That's a good thing. But you won't have the luxury of sitting back, learning something, and then just doing that one thing for a long period of time. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think you're going to have to continuously learn. I think the other thing about AI is it's going to enable you to learn at pace that you could have never learned before. It's just going to open up a lot of things that we haven't even considered yet. Just think about like this phone, like you all grew up with phones. I didn't, but like this is version whatever, 16 or whatever we're at. AI is in version 1, and I can already right now have a full conversation with my chat GPT and pretty much find out anything I want about anything. So just think about, so then what is that? What's possible? So what I urge you to consider is you're going to have to be continuous learners, and you probably want to be an expert on AI. The other really cool thing about being young and an expert in AI is I have no shot of being an expert on AI. No chance. I just can't. My brain, it's too old. It's not because I'm not smart. I can't think the way young people think. I can't become an expert. And by the way, experts on AI are only about a year and a half ahead of all of you. So if you decided today, I want to be an expert, 5 years from now, you'll probably be in the top 1 percentile for expertise in AI. Whereas in everything else that's been being done for the last 200 years, it's kind of hard to catch up to old people like me in terms of expertise. But there's this one that's like, I'd be all over it. I'd spend my weekends. I wouldn't do any I wouldn't do any TikTok. Sorry, I'm going to lose people that love it, like my daughter. I wouldn't do any social media other than learning about AI. That's what I'd spend all my free time on if I were you guys.
Paul, I just wanted to mention we just are about to release a white paper called the Human Skills Imperative. Part of our hypothesis is with the acceleration of AI, the need for human skills accelerates, right? The
Cool.
need for learning agility, but also
Yeah.
the need for the differentiators of someone who can still pick up the phone if they're in wealth management. This is someone who can still take their clients to dinner or
I
play
love that.
golf, right? Tell us a little bit because you've sort of in both worlds, right? You've seen the business side. Yes, +1 on the need for AI skills development, and talk to us a little bit about the human skills that you see from that you hear feedback from the employers that are hiring. What do they like about the Career Spring students that they hire, and what do you see in the industry from that lens?
Yeah. I look forward to reading that paper too. Please send that to me when you get that because we're all learning about that stuff.
Mhm.
Um, well, I guess let me start big picture. Big picture, what an advantage to be an FGLI student. Like, wait, I thought we were disadvantaged. What an advantage to be someone that had adversity in their lives, that had to work hard, maybe had to work through high school and college, that got kicked a few times in the face. And I don't mean that literally. I use that term all the time because it just kind of, I like the way it sounds. Getting kicked in the face is like, you know what I'm talking about. It's a massive advantage over the person that had everything come easy for them. What a disadvantage for kids that grow up where they don't really have to work. They don't have any adversity because everything gets fixed for them. And then they get thrown into the world. And guess what happens in the world? Shit happens in the world. Maybe you're gonna have to block that out, Adrian. See, now you got your first problem as a podcaster. Somebody said a bad word. But what an advantage. And to Jen's point, employers today, we kind of think your generation is soft. We sort of have this feeling that Generally speaking, this generation is softer. They're more entitled. They want to be promoted immediately. They don't want to work as hard. So whenever a student shows up who actually wants to work hard, who has shown they work hard, like give me the student that went through college, maybe they had a 2.5, but they worked 40 hours a week at McDonald's. I'm hiring that person every time. So what I'd urge, so to answer Jen's question, what is it that employers are looking for? They want smart people, but they really want people that are loyal, that want to work hard, that are open to growth, that don't think they know everything. I can't tell you when I ran global energy trading for JP Morgan. I had more 25-year-olds tell me that they needed to be a trader immediately, all the time. And I'd say, no, you don't. Trust me, you don't need to be trading right away. Learn more, learn more. But that was kind of that generation just felt like they needed to be promoted immediately. So if you're a person that can come to work and just be like, I just want to learn, my objective is to learn as much as I can between now and the day I turn 30. And I'll do whatever you guys need, obviously ethically within reason. But I will work hard, do whatever it takes, and I'm all in. That resonates with employers, regardless of AI. Like you said, like what are the skills? Being able to talk to people. There's all those things, but ultimately, I think the attitude of I'm here, get me to work, I think is the best of all.
Thank you for highlighting that, Paul. I love what you're saying, and I love the specific example you gave about the 2.5 GPA. But if you work 40 hours at McDonald's, I mean, that tells me a lot. But what we've seen, experienced ourselves even at times as first gen, is this disconnect between, wow, these are my experiences. It's just the way it is. I had to work hard or I had to do these things. It felt hard. It's just the way it was, just part of my experience. So there's a lot of devaluing
Yes.
of those experiences. What advice do you have for someone who maybe thinks about it that way? How can
Yeah.
we kind of showcase that more?
Yeah, that's such a good take. So the word is embrace it, right? Embrace your background, embrace your experiences. And I'm not saying like you don't want to go into an interview like, oh, I had it so hard and you don't understand the stuff I had to go. It's more about like, look, just so you know, you see my grades and everything. I want you also to know that I work 40 hours a week. Like with a smile on it. I worked 40 here's what I did at my job and I took on all this responsibility. Oh, by the way, I also had to take care of a couple siblings. And the person behind the desk is probably going to be like, whoa, like if this young person could do that, I'm sure I could teach him how to use the AI model. But they've shown me that they have a grit, determination, all those other things. So I think the answer to your question is you just need to embrace it and be proud of your background. And in the back of your mind, it's not just what you say to the employers or the as a candidate, it's what you really feel. Like know that you are advantaged over the person that didn't have those work experience. It kind of stunk, right? It was hard and I'm not suggesting it wasn't tough, but why not embrace because you already did the hard work.
Paul, we're right now at the halfway point, and I want to open it up to other listeners that are in this call to ask any questions they have for you. All right, it looks like there's no questions, so I could ask the next question.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm so
Sandra,
happy listening. I'm just happy listening, and I don't wanna bias the conversation towards a selfish thing. But yeah, this has been great.
Thanks, Alejandro.
thanks. And Samantha's joining us from Sacred Heart Nativity, which is the middle school. Sylvia and I were both on the board with that. A lot of the students go to Crystal Ray from there, from the middle school. So just Samantha, thank you so much for joining and thanks for taking this information back to the students.
Yeah, no, I think the conversation so far has been amazing. And I think right now we're focusing a lot on how we can kind of shift our post-secondary model that we've had so far and kind of transition it to being able to learn how to network and being able to be partners with different jobs and bringing alumni who are already established professionals, and how we can do all of that. And so I'm taking notes here and there to hopefully be able to do like a training. I went to Cristo Rey, and so it's nice to have that background to fall back on. But I do think that networking is such a very difficult thing. And I think there's also a cultural aspect to it. Sometimes when we work with a lot of Latinos, and so sometimes it makes it really difficult to make it not feel as if, I don't know, you're always told not to like ask for stuff. You kind of have to do it yourself. And so
Yes.
actually that is a question. So
Mhm.
how would you combat that? Like what language should we be using with our students to try to kind of get them out of that mindset that networking shouldn't feel like, we're asking for too much, or yeah, I think that is
Well, I think you're saying the right things when you say that, Samantha, and getting maybe some alumni to come back. Like hearing it from me is it's okay. I think people probably believe me because I'm literally spending all my time on this, so I sort of know it. But having like the young man I spoke to last night that works at JP Morgan, when he tells a student that he met with 50 people, he didn't even know that what he wanted to do, and that now he's working at I think that is more powerful than just the teacher saying it.
Hmm.
So to the extent you can get alumni to come back and give examples of that, and then just get them to try it. I think just like let's. I think making it mandatory makes sense at the post-secondary level because it's like once they do a few, then they're like, oh, okay, it's not bad. It's really not scary at all. But if you never get them, if they're not forced to do at least a couple, then they never get through that. So we often ask our partners to make it part of their curriculum that every student must do at least a couple. So I don't know. And if you're, but I think your language, I think you're all over it on the language. They just need to understand that like this is a team sport. It's
Hmm.
literally not what you've been told. You're not going to get a job on your own. I mean, you could. You could be the one in 1,000 that somehow do that. But it's really for everybody else, it's through their networks.
Thank
Samantha,
you.
that's such a good question too. I think of it sometimes, as like a Latina entrepreneur starting off on the journey, right? It is you can get some of those messages. I remember culturally hearing when you're growing up, más bonita calladita. You're more beautiful when you're quiet, right? So these
Oh man.
messages get really ingrained in you on how you're supposed to present, especially as a woman, right? And I know sometimes navigating it, I've grown up career-wise in DC and Silicon Valley, some pretty hard places to navigate from a career perspective. And early on, I used to think, gee, I don't belong anywhere, right? There's nobody like me in these circles. What I
Mhm.
came to understand is it's not that I don't belong anywhere, it's I belong everywhere because I have two languages, I have two cultures. If I can navigate Latino world and American world, I can navigate DC world and Silicon Valley world, you know, I got it, Topeka, Kansas. I got it, Miami. I got it, New York. I got it,
Yes.
Paris. I can be anywhere. And so there's a lot of strength in just how we've navigated growing up in your middle school students, how they have navigated their parents' complex tax forms, right? How they have navigated going to Bellarmine College Prep at a predominantly white affluent school. Those same skills and how you learn to connect, to storytell, to navigate is the superpower that nobody else has experienced that has gone through there. So thinking through moving from I belong nowhere to I belong everywhere is a really powerful mindset shift for our students.
I love that. It's really good.
I have a question for you, Paul. All curious students and members are always striving to find meaningful, high quality employment. And based off of your experience in career screening, what are some factors that lead to these meaningful and high quality employments?
Yeah, we actually, when we got started, I thought that I used to say this too, that students have gone, these students, I like football, I coach football. So these students have gone 99 yards and they're on the 1 yard line and they're not getting the last block. They just need the professional networks. They're there. And what I realized maybe a year into after founding Career Spring is that that's not totally true. Some of it's true, but very often they're back at the 50-yard line because their resumes aren't very good. They haven't had internships. And so we started to do a lot of research and we realized pretty quickly that there's actually four factors that lead to meaningful high quality employment. And when I say meaningful high quality employment, there's different, we have a very formal definition, but I think the important thing is that it's it aligns with the education that the student has received, right? So if you have a bachelor's degree, that it's a job that probably requires a bachelor's degree, that it's at least living wage, but most importantly, it has mobility, economic and professional mobility built into it too, right? So it's like we're making money that makes sense for what my education, my skills and interests. It's aligned with my education that it requires, and it gives me the opportunity to grow over time. But the research shows there's four factors that lead to meaningful high quality employment. Number one, you need information. You need to be informed. You asked earlier, like, how does somebody figure out what career they want to get into? Well, the first step is being informed. And so, like, one of the things that we have at Career Spring is we have a career video library, and we've got like 500 videos of professionals a day in the life. So it's like, I think I want to be a psychologist. Let me watch videos. Think of it as like an online career fair. So that's important. You've got to be informed. And again, with AI, I think you can get really good information and tools like CareerSpring. Two, you need skills like resume, cover letter, interview prep. If your resume stinks, you're probably not going to get yourself an interview. And if you get the interview and you don't know how to do an interview, you could fail. So again, there's programs all out there, but CareerSpring basically has a toolkit of best practices for resume, cover letter, interview prep that we created. We have lunch and learns every couple of weeks. And then we have candidate coaches. We've got about 50 HR professionals that are available to meet with students that want to prepare for an interview or have their resume looked at. The third thing is you need to have professional networks and social capital. We talked a lot about that. And we've got the advisor forum, all the advisors that are out there you can meet with. And then the fourth are internships. Students that have internships are 49% less likely to be underemployed after graduation. You've got to get work while you're in college that's aligned with what you want to do post-college. And at CareerSpring, we have like 225 employers now, and they post internships and jobs on the platform. And then we match students with those opportunities, like the Forward program and other things that students on the West Coast have participated in.
Thank you for that, Paul. I have a follow-up question. What are some common mistakes that you see either college students or early professionals make? And can you give us some tips of how to avoid those mistakes?
Sure. Mistake. Rushing through the work because I want to go to happy hour with my friends. Rushing through the work because I'm going to play a basketball game. Turning something in without reviewing it 3 times before you turn it in. That's a common mistake. And the problem is, like, you only have one brand, the Adrian brand. That's your brand. And if you, first impressions really matter. If you come to your first job and you turn in crappy work, it's so hard to remove that first impression. But to the extent you come into that first job and you nail it for the first year, you built up so much equity with them, meaning like value, where they see you differently, that when you do ultimately screw up, because we all do, and I've got way more screw ups than I have wins. Now, maybe not way more, but I've got plenty. When you do screw up, they're like, he's been doing such a great job. You can't come out of the gate screwing up. So how do you ensure you don't screw up? You overdo it. You overwork. You check your work 3 times. If you're done at 5, you stay till 5:40 to make sure that it's correct. Two, I already touched on. It's the flaw of trying to rush through and get promoted too quickly, entitlement. That mindset, I think, is a real miss. by people. And then the third thing is like it's so important to be a team player. I think many people know like the value of teams, but sometimes when you get in a work environment, you start maybe some people feel like they need to elevate themselves versus others and backstab and that kind of stuff. It's like people can usually see through that. So come up with the mindset of I'm on the team and I want everybody around me to be successful. I'm going to help everyone around me. I think in the long run, that just works out a lot better than trying to elevate myself over others. Not sure if I covered up, you know, that one was on your list, Adrian, of questions, so that's a little unfair.
That's good. I like that. I love the coaching references too, Paul. I love John Wooden. One of my favorite ones is always assume goodwill. Assume goodwill of the teammates around you. Don't assume the worst of them if something's a mistake. And I think it helps
Oh, that's cool. I
build
didn't know that one.
goodwill. It's our family rule.
Oh, that's a great one.
Assume goodwill when our 3-year-old draws on the wall. Assume it's just art.
That's a really good one. I'm glad you mentioned that. I'll throw in on top of that St. Ignatius, since we talked about the
Yeah.
Jesuits. St. Ignatius would ask people to presuppose that the person you're in conflict with had the best interests of the organization in mind.
Mm,
I think
that's
that's
good.
very similar.
Very similar.
Yeah, very
That's
similar.
very similar. I
Let's
know that.
not, yeah, go ahead.
No, no, no. Go ahead.
I was just thinking that it's like put yourself in that person's shoes,
Mm-hmm.
rather than just assuming that they're trying to hurt the organization or hurt you. There's
Mm-hmm.
real value in that. So Wooden, smart guy.
I know this isn't on the sheets too, but I'm just curious. What are some of your favorite coaching mottos that have applied both on football field and in work for you?
I'm trying to think. I mean, I'll tell you a funny one first. The what I often would tell our team is that we want to the word of our offense was capitulation. And and so students would be like, what does that mean? There's always one like smart eighth grader that would be able to tell me what that means. And they say, well, making the other person to give up. I said, that's exactly our objective is to get the other team to capitulate. So like
Mm-hmm.
there was a time where like we were beating a team pretty good, and this kid ran over to me off the outside. He said, hey coach, is this capitulation? I said, yeah, it's capitulation.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Coaching mottos. This isn't a coaching model, but I love quotes. One of my favorite quotes is from Thomas Jefferson. He said, I'm a great believer in luck, and I find the harder I work, the more I have of it. I'm a great believer in luck, and I find the harder I work, the more I have of it. Like, put yourself, by working hard, you put yourself in a position to get lucky. Like,
Mm-hmm.
man, that guy was really lucky, or that woman was really lucky. Maybe, or maybe she worked really hard and got herself in a position where she could get lucky.
Mm-hmm.
That I like that quote. The other one that I really like is Norman Vincent Peale wrote this book, The Power of Positive Thinking,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, and it's an old book,
Mm-hmm.
but I really like it. I haven't read it in years, but I used to read it like at least once every couple of years. And he said, with the theme of being all in, he said, throw your heart over the fence and your body will follow.
Mm-hmm.
So like I think about when you started Cura, like you were like, I think I'm on, and you were just like, I'm going for it. I'm doing this. Of course, you never have full clarity, right? When you're starting something from scratch like that. But you threw your heart over the fence and your body followed. And I think that's a really nice quote that maybe it ties into football a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but it definitely ties into life.
That's good, Paul. Thanks. You're so right. It's one of those things where it's like you when your heart is so in it, you can't imagine doing anything else. Your heart is so in it that it's the only path forward is going forward. There's no plan B. There's no other options. And I think it super relates to sports. Once you're in there, like there's 8 minutes left in the game, you can't stop it,
Yeah,
right?
you
Like
can't stop the game.
you can't stop it. So like what are you going to do with that mindset and with that time? That's really cool. Thank you for that perspective.
Sure.
Oh, I appreciate all the quotes that you said. I consider myself a very lucky person. And a quote that I heard recently was, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." And I
Very
really
cool.
resonated with that. But now let's move on to rapid fire questions. I know we're coming up on time. So the first question that I have for you is, what hobby do you wish you had more time for?
Hmm.
Golf.
Okay. My next rapid fire question is, if you could have dinner with any leader, past, present, who would it be?
Jesus.
Hmm. What's the favorite, what's your favorite city that you ever visited and why?
Uh, Chiang Mai, Thailand. I love the people in Thailand.
What about here in the US and the States?
I'm a New York fan because my parents are both New Yorkers, so I'm Yankees and Giants fan. But I really love Chicago. I went to business school in Chicago, and I love that city. I just feel like it's very welcoming, and it's got really cool character, I think.
Yeah. What's your favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Hmm. And then my final rapid fire question that I have for you is, what is your favorite underrated movie?
Underrated movie. God, that's a good one. Underrated. That's tricky. I know my favorite movies, but I'm trying to think of an underrated movie. I don't know. I
What's your
don't know. My
favorite?
favorite movies, Shawshank Redemption,
Oh.
Okay.
Godfather.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
If
those
you
are
have,
great
it
movies.
may be too slow for the younger generation, though. I was like to my kids, I'm like, watch The Godfather. Like, this is boring, Dad. I'm like, oh, it's classic.
I make them watch 70s and 80s movies to help them build some resilience, you know? Jojo and Julian have watched the 1970s Superman before they could watch the new one with commercials, with
Oh gosh.
commercials. And you know what? They loved it. I was like, you will never know the stress of like me and my brother having to run downstairs and get popcorn in between the commercial just to make it, you know?
That
So
is really funny.
I know. I think it's so funny. Thanks, Paul. This is really amazing. I just want to say that I am so inspired by you as a leader to really take action. You just take a lot of action, and I think that's such a big lesson for all of us. It's not about having the perfect path. I've seen how Career Spring has evolved. Same thing, right? You guys, you have an amazing network of 1,000 mentors, but it started with like five, right? You started in just one city and you've grown, and so what you're doing for the community is so needed and so impressive. I also want to just say that it's really important to have allies and advisors across different areas, right? We often think and love our Latino community, but we need to expand our circles, right? We need to expand our circles. It's not about race, it's not about ethnicity, it's about mission, right? It's about ambition, it's about heart, it's about soul. And finding advisors and mentors that share that are more important, in my opinion, than looking strictly at networking only within our community. My best mentors and advisors and business partners have been of different race, have been of different gender than me. And so it's about wisdom. It's about resilience and heart and shared missions more than anything else for our community. So just thank you for the work that you're doing, the
Thanks.
commitment, passion that you have for first generation low income. It's clearly your life's work, and we hope to continue to foster partnerships and share resources and insights and learnings together. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Right back at you. We definitely will. Yeah, the partnership will just continue to grow. Adrian, nice job today. I think you're onto something.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Let me wrap up. Thanks everyone for joining, and thank you, Paul, for being here. Please make sure to connect with Paul through Career Spring. I'll put it in the chat below. And yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Great day,
Paul.
everybody. Bye-bye.